98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Weekdays from 10 a.m. on 98FM.
I'd be very interested in getting your opinions on this, about the proposal by the Green Party to decriminalise cannabis here in Ireland. They want criminal offences to be removed for people over the age of 18 for possessing less than 5 grams of cannabis. And they also say that the Gardaí should consider Dutch-style coffee shops allowing the consumption and sale of cannabis for over 18s under certain conditions. Now, I want to find out right now public opinion on this one. So, here's the question I want to ask, and I want you to take part in this poll to see where public opinion is on this. And the question I'm asking is this: do you support the decriminalisation of cannabis for personal use? All I want you to do is send us a text with the word yes or the word no by text message to 0877 98 98 98. I'm really interested to know, because I actually don't know. I can't even tell you roughly how many people support this. So let's try and find out right now. If you've never taken part in a text poll before, do, because this is a very important social issue. Would you support the decriminalisation of cannabis for personal use and maybe have coffee shops? Yes or no? And all you do is send the word yes or the word no by text message to 0877 98 98 98. Now, you can have an opinion on this if you've never smoked the stuff in your life. If you wouldn't even know what a joint looked like, you can still have an opinion on this. Text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. And I'll give you the results of this in a couple of minutes. Now, I'm joined on the line by Malachy, who... I know, Malachy, if you have your phone in your hand, you'll probably text no as the answer to my question. Why?
Well, I mean, I'm sick of these trendy liberals coming out with this nonsensical stuff that, for instance, cannabis or any other drug use is of no damage to people or to society. And we'll take it out of the hands of the criminals and all of this nonsense. We took tobacco out of the hands of the criminals, and there are now more cigarettes, for instance, sold on the streets than there are in cigarette shops. So the nonsense of taking it out of the hands of the criminals doesn't work. The message that we're sending by this type of nonsense, and it always comes from these trendy liberals, from the Greens or from the Social Democrats or some of these other clowns who actually don't live in the same world as everybody else. They think because they do a line of coke at the weekend, or they roll a joint and have it, after work, that's okay because they're not out robbing it, and they think they can handle the problem that they have, and they don't even recognise the fact that they have a problem. And that it's okay and everybody should be able to do it. And that figure of 25% of Irish people have used cannabis is totally false. It comes from nowhere other than from their own heads.
Well, what he claimed was that 25% of the population have tried cannabis, 10% are regular users. You don't believe that at all?
The population of this island is something like 4.5 million now. That means 1.25 million people have tried cannabis. Is he seriously telling us that?
Some people would think that figure would actually be higher.
Well,
I would certainly put myself in the category of somebody who has tried it, but I'm certainly not in the category of a regular user. I tried it in Amsterdam. I wouldn't be a regular user, but I mean I would have thought that figure of 25% is fairly conservative.
Well, I wouldn't, and let's see where they come up with it. Now, I've never tried it because I see the devastation that those type of drugs lead to. In the community that I live in, there is total destruction.
Not specifically from cannabis, though.
Niall, or
Adrian.
I thought it was on the other show.
Come on.
I don't know any person who ended up on heroin or coke or crack who didn't start off on cannabis.
And that may well be the case, Malachy, that it is seen as a gateway drug, but so is a packet of John Player Blue seen as a gateway drug.
And what do we put on cigarettes? We tell people that they're bad for you, that you shouldn't smoke them. Here we're saying to people, look, go into a coffee shop and you can smoke cannabis, or you can grow it yourself, or you can buy a bit somewhere in the shop. That's the message that we're sending. You see, society has a role in how it educates our young people, and young people see and learn what's right and wrong from the way the state deals with something. So if the state says that something is available and that you can get it without being criminalised, therefore young people see that it's okay. So that will
okay,
lead
so
to
it is giving the use of cannabis the thumbs up, basically. One of the things that the Green Party said in their statement was that we are making criminals out of decent people and that needs to change.
Well, I don't believe that people who do drugs are decent people. Ultimately, they all forget the destruction that they bring on their own families. And as I've said,
you see, Malachy, I think this is where I think we're talking about completely different drugs here. I would say the destruction wrought on families from a drug like heroin, yes, I'd accept that. I wouldn't agree with you that you're wreaking destruction on your family if you smoke a spliff.
No, this is another one of these issues where they open the door. And not long after it's open to cannabis, it will be weed, then it'll move on to different type of tablets, and then it'll move on to a bit of coke. And then, what's wrong with heroin then? You see, if the state says it's okay to pollute your body and destroy your life, and all of the research shows...
But sorry, the state already does that with cigarettes, with alcohol, we already say...
So, and we already know that the state was wrong to allow those things in the first place. And if we were to go back to when cigarettes first started becoming popular, if we had banned those then, we wouldn't have the problems that we have now from them. And I think that the way we're moving towards effectively banning them shows that the wrong decision was made. And we shouldn't be, because we've made two mistakes with alcohol and with cigarettes, it doesn't mean we should go and make a third one. I mean, if we should do anything, it's to learn by the mistakes that we've made, not to go on and repeat them. But you see, it's the message that it sends to young people. It tells them that it's okay to do it. And I'm not prepared to say to my kids that it's okay to smoke cannabis. And I don't want the state doing that. And, all of these trendy liberals who, come up with this nonsense don't actually see the effects of it. And as I've said, every junkie I know started off on cannabis. And you'd be hard put to find one who didn't. And of course you will have people who will say, oh, well, I do a bit of cannabis or I do a bit of coke or whatever, and I'm grand. But the majority of people have a problem from it. And, all of the research shows that the continuous use of cannabis kills your brain cells. And it's that the type of society we already have a huge percentage of young kids who are dysfunctional. Many of them are abusing cannabis and other drugs already at a young age. So why would we compound that by allowing and making it acceptable? Just because something becomes popular when it's within a certain clique doesn't make it right.
OK, I ran a poll just a moment ago, Malachy, just before we started talking. The question that I asked was, would you like to see cannabis being decriminalised here in Ireland? I want you to just have a wild guess at what you think that poll might say.
Well, I suppose the time of the programme and the listenership that you have, they probably voted yes.
OK, well, not only did they vote yes, they voted yes in spades. 87% voted yes.
How many votes were there?
Pardon me?
How many in total?
850.
I suppose a fair
87. It is a fair sample, yeah.
It doesn't make it right.
87% said yes. 13% said no. That is overwhelming support for the decriminalisation of this drug.
Again, it doesn't make it right.
I didn't say it makes it right, but it does it not make you a little bit out of touch with?
No, it doesn't.
With public opinion?
It certainly doesn't. No more than, for instance, a case in England there recently, nothing to do with this issue, where a man killed a burglar who came in to break to rob him, and he ended up in custody. And the friends of the burglar come and put a memorial outside of his house. Now, is that right?
No, and other people ripped it back down again.
Yes, and they're continuing correctly to do that. But, this is the type of nonsense that and the politically correct liberals would say, oh, well, we must, look after the burglar. And they would probably support the people putting the monument or the memorial to him. But, this is, just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right. OK, stay there for a second, Malachy, because I have to take some calls on this. Our telephone number is 6797981. Just because something is popular doesn't make it right. OK? Yet in a Dublin Talks poll just a moment ago, 87% of you said yes to decriminalising cannabis. 87%. Gary, you're on 98FM. Hiya, Gary.
Hello there, Adrian.
Good, Gary. Now, you believe that it should be decriminalised particularly because of the condition that you live with?
Yeah, well, I suffer with MS, Adrian, and I really find the benefits of cannabis does really help. And to this day and age, I just don't know why it hasn't been decriminalised for myself and my fellow sufferers, I could say. But yeah, I just don't know why it hasn't been decriminalised yet for medicinal use.
Now, certainly for medicinal use, it is something that has been debated at government level. It is something that is being considered. I think it is something that is going to happen.
Yep.
But how would you feel about people being able to, carry 5 grams of it or whatever it is for their own personal use, being able to have 2 plants in their house?
That's their own business, Adrian. Like if they a lot of people in Ireland drink alcohol and they walk around the streets drinking cans out on the side and all. So it's unbelievable. Basically, what this country is doing to MS sufferers basically at the moment.
Malachy, can I ask you how you feel about cannabis for medicinal use by somebody like Gary here who lives with MS?
Well, firstly, that's not what the Green Party are proposing.
No, I know that. I'm aware of that.
Totally separate to that argument. I mean, there is an argument for medicinal cannabis prescribed in the same way as we prescribe other medicines, and that's something that probably will come in. But that would have to be restricted to people who have specific diseases or specific needs. Because what would happen if medicinal cannabis comes in, and we see the whole range of tablets which are created by pharmaceutical companies, which are sold on the streets of Dublin alone.
The pharmaceutical companies though want people to take their drugs instead of going for an alternative that really benefits.
Yeah, but you see what you will have when they legislate for medicinal use, it will be something manufactured by the pharmaceutical company. It won't be somebody going in and buying a plant in a chemist. That's not the way it's going to work, and that's not the way.
Why can't it work like that?
I'm not saying whether it should.
Look at Sweden. Look at Portugal. Look at all these different countries that allow cannabis to be used for.
Okay, but Gary, what about and I think, sorry, in your situation with cannabis for medicinal use, I think an awful lot of people, I think the vast majority, I think nearly 100% are in favour of it being legalised for use by somebody like yourself.
But it still hasn't been legalised.
No, I know that, but it is in the pipeline, I think.
But how many years have they been saying that?
Well, that's very true. But as regards general use, being allowed to carry 5 grams for your own personal use, having possibly coffee shops, would you be in favour of that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, sure. Think about the economy will benefit from it as well. So it's just... The government don't know what they're doing, and they really need to cop on to themselves.
And do you think somebody like Malachy is a little bit out of touch to say that this drug in drug-ravaged parts of Dublin that Malachy works in is a gateway drug for people who end up on chronic drugs like heroin?
That's bullshit. Sorry for the language, but they've been saying that for years, and sure.
Because it's true.
Where did you get these
facts
from?
For years. I've already said where I get my facts from. Every junkie I know started off on cannabis.
I don't agree with that now.
Well,
I'm a junkie, and I started cannabis 30 years ago, and so I don't know what you're saying there.
Well, I think it's quite clear what I said.
That you're calling every cannabis user a junkie?
No, that's not what I said. I said that every junkie I know who ended up on heroin or crack or any other...
started off using cannabis?
Yes.
I don't agree with that, no.
Well, you did... I've
got friends of mine who started on cannabis and they haven't taken any hard Class A drugs or any of that, and they're still on cannabis, and they wouldn't even go near Class A drugs, so... That doesn't disagree in any way with the point I've made. What I have said is that every junkie I know started off on cannabis.
All right, stay there for a second. Jason, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Jason?
Hey, Adrian.
You're angry with Malachy. Why?
Well, he's so far out of touch. He's inside a bubble within a bubble.
But I don't know if he's out of touch in that he lives, he lives and
I know
works
where
in
he is. I'm from the inner city.
I'm
from the inner city. Okay? And I smoked cannabis. And I never touched any other hard drugs. Never. And the fact that what he's saying is every junkie he knows used to smoke cannabis. That doesn't mean that. And junkies that he knows probably still smoke cannabis. It doesn't matter. Just because... people turn to drugs for various different reasons in their life, and people that are heroin addicts obviously have much more serious things going on in their lives that they end up on drugs for whatever reason. Just means that they might have happened to start off on cannabis. Doesn't mean cannabis led them to heroin. Doesn't mean anything like it of the sort. Do you know what I mean?
You see, Malachy, an awful lot of people don't buy this gateway drug theory. And yes, you could be right in what you say, that the majority of people who are heroin users started on cannabis. But that doesn't mean that everybody who starts on cannabis is going to become a heroin user.
A lot of them starting on prescription drugs, Malachy.
No more than everybody who takes a drink ends up as an alcoholic. But why would we be saying to kids that it's okay to do this?
Well, we wouldn't be. We'd be saying it to over 18s.
Exactly.
We say
adults.
Hold on. We say that alcohol is not available until you're 18, and we know that there are 14-year-old alcoholics in this country.
Okay, we say cannabis is we say cannabis is not available either, and if you want to talk about kids, they're smoking any old shite, and God knows where it's coming from. There is no control and no regulation over it.
And, well, the one thing that we know about this country is that regulation doesn't actually mean anything. So no matter how you regulate something in this country, it never seems to work. Have we learned nothing, in the past 20 years?
Okay, Jason, let me put that point to you. That hang on. By decriminalising cannabis, you're saying to young people, this is a cool drug. It's no bother. You can smoke it away to your heart's content. The government and the state approves of this.
They're not saying that at all. They're talking about regulating it in coffee shops. In the same way, look, if drink is getting into the hands of people, that's to do with drink is getting into the hands of younger kids because either people are buying it for them or they're going in with fake ideas or whatever. That's something that has to be looked at. That doesn't mean stop people from it. Look, I mean, you talk about people that get drunk and they go out on the street and they wreck the place and they get into fights, all that. You don't see that in coffee shops. You don't see that in Amsterdam. You don't see, fights and brawls and stuff like that you see with drink. I don't drink myself, and I think drink should be banned. And cannabis should be made legal. And not only in the context of smoking it, Malachy, there's cannabis oil that people can do. You don't have to be smoking it. Do you know what I mean? There's cannabis oils there.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, well, I'm not, you just have this thing. It's it needs to be regular. It needs to be stopped and stop smoking. The reason why they allow people to drink and smoke is a form of population control anyway, in my opinion.
And you think that allowing them to use cannabis wouldn't be the very same?
The revenue that they make off it. Well, do you know what? If they're going to, the reason before they didn't allow cannabis in Ireland was because they said that, well, Britain would see it as a gateway to Europe. We would become a gateway to Britain. But Britain now is shooting themselves in the foot with Brexit. We should seize on that opportunity and become like the rest of them, like Spain, like Amsterdam, like Holland, I mean. Do you know what I mean? And benefit from it. And our tourism will go up.
Peter, you're on 98FM. How are you, Peter?
How's it going, Agent?
Peter, the arguments against this that we're hearing, it's a gateway drug, we're going to create a bigger drug problem, blah, blah, blah. What do you think?
Firstly, the guys Malachy's point about the gateway drug, that's all made up by the right wing. I'll tell you how it's a gateway drug. When little Johnny, kids are outside buy a bag of cans, and they buy a bag of cans out of an awful, and the guard to find out who sold it, he loses license for selling kids underage kids drink. Whereas little Johnny is selling his bag of weed to the kids, and while little Johnny is selling his bag of weed to the kids, little Johnny also sells maybe some E's, maybe some Coke, and after a while, here, do you want some of this for free? And then before you know it, the reason why I know this.
So, sorry, your point is that is the gateway aspect of it. That that it is being dealt with in criminal circles who also deal in other drugs.
Little Johnny doesn't care what age you are, and little Johnny will also give you credit, so you can owe me the money. And I know this because it's happened to me and it's happened to people I know. My youngest brother has been in thousands of debt because a drug dealer doesn't care. He'll keep giving it to you and eventually beat the money out of you. So if he wants to actually protect the children and keep them away from the drug, legalising it is the best way to keep the children. Keep the drug away from children, because if 14-year-old Mick walks into a coffee shop, even in Amsterdam, you'll ask for your passport no matter what age you are. So little Mikey walks into the coffee shop and tries to buy a bag of weed and asks for his passport. He's 15. The guy in that coffee shop knows that's taken me a long time and it's cost me a lot of money to get me cannabis license to sell it. I'm not going to lose that license and risk hefty fines of hundreds of thousands and prison time for sending somebody underage drugs.
Okay, Malachy, let's deal with that very valid argument that the gateway aspect to this drug is the fact that it is being dealt with and sold and handled by the same people that are also selling and handling and holding ecstasy and cocaine and heroin and everything else.
Well, I mean, of course, all illegal drugs are sold by the same people at different levels to different people.
So,
make it right.
No, I didn't say it made it right. But the point, the point that Peter's arguing is a young fellow who wants a spliff is dealing with the same person who'll sell him coke, who'll sell him heroin, and that's the gateway aspect of this drug.
Well, the same logic then as a child who goes in to buy a packet of sweets in a shop. Is buying it in the same place where cigarettes and alcohol.
Okay, but cigarettes are now hidden. Kids don't see cigarettes in shops anymore.
That's another right-wing argument with cigarettes. Like, if you again, a go in a shop is not going to sell somebody underage cigarettes because he loses life.
Of course they are. Many times.
Okay, but the argument is, Malachy, if this particular drug is taken out of the hands of criminals, they won't have the opportunity to push harder drugs like coke and heroin on young people.
They'll just move on to another drug. The reality is that this is a...
Exactly.
Let me make the point.
Other drugs because the loss of revenue. In Colorado, they legalized cannabis, and the Mexican cartels have stopped selling cannabis in Colorado because there's no money in selling cannabis in Colorado, because you can buy a kilo of cheap Mexican cannabis in Colorado for less than $1,000 because you can get the good, high quality, regulated. There's no chemicals put into the soil. There's no dirt on the cannabis. They're not sprinkling glass dust over the cannabis to give cannabis more weight. The cannabis is checked underneath microscopes for aphids shy. That's how much regulation is put onto it.
And you think that this country could only benefit from that, do you?
Only benefit. You think about it. Here's another one for you. It's not only cannabis, hemp. It's cannabis's cousin. You could smoke a ton of it. It never gets you high. If we decriminalise it, farmers can grow that. That give us food, oil, paper, plastic, fabric, you name it. One plant can give us over 25,000 different materials. It's called weed because it grows everywhere. George, this guy Malachy's points are all right-wing points. The point he has about the brain cell damage, that's only one experiment that was ever carried out. That experiment was carried out underneath the Nixon administration in the 1960s. They were supposed to give a monkey a joint a day for 30 days and check its effects. They gave the joint the equivalent of 30 joints over the course of one day, and they put it in a mask. And what actually happened to the monkey wasn't getting any oxygen, and that's how his brain cells died, because over the 3 days he was being suffocated. That's where the brain cell argument comes from.
Okay, but what about, Peter, okay, the other argument, and this is a very reasonable argument, okay? The argument being that by decriminalising or effectively legalising this particular drug, we are saying to our young people, you can go and drink, you can go and smoke cigarettes, and now guess what? You can also smoke a joint as well. We don't mind.
That's a stupid point.
Why?
Because kids already know that they can go out and get weed if they want.
I know that. Hang on. I understand that, Peter. But by legalising it, you're basically giving it the thumbs up.
They decriminalised it in Portugal and stuff like that. And what they done was educated the young kids. And Michael Moore was even done a documentary on it. And when he was over there, the kids were like, I don't see any interest in it. If your kids aren't interested in taking drugs, they're not going to take drugs. You're like, we're going to be worried about kids smoking a bit of cannabis, but it's all right. You can go down to Tesco's and buy 3 litres of vodka and sit in the field and drink himself to death.
All right, stay there for a second. Let me bring in some more calls on this. Connor, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Connor?
How's things, Adrian?
Good, thanks, Connor. What did you want to say on this?
No, I just wanted to run something by you with contrast. I've been smoking grass since I'm 16, and I'm 23 now, and I don't see any bad health issues or bad. I don't really particularly drink very often at all. But just as one of your other callers was saying, I seen a video there last week on Facebook of a lot of English lads over in Amsterdam running amok, absolutely running amok while they were all drinking. And it's the same thing. I was only in Amsterdam myself in September, and you don't see that. That generally doesn't go on when people are smoking a joint. They tend to be more relaxed.
So, sorry, how many years are you smoking it?
Since I'm 16. I'm 23 now. So
okay, so 7 or 8 years. Are you in any way worried about the possible damage you're doing to yourself, the possibility to develop psychosis or any of that? Have you, or would other people in your family, if I were to ask them this question, noticed any change in your personality in the last couple of years?
No, they just carry on and lay it back. Just relax, man. I don't generally cause aggro. You go out of your way to cause aggro, and that's what I find, that people are quick to judge on it when they haven't actually experienced it.
Okay, so what happens when this drug no longer really does it for you anymore? Will you go on to something harder then?
It does, no, not at all, no. It does. I smoke, as I said, I've been smoking a long time, but it doesn't generally, the effects don't generally suppress after a while. Like, I'd smoke a joint in the evening, 1 or 2 in the evening, and that'll do me.
Malachy, I mean, he's saying it hasn't affected him at all. I assume you haven't gone on to harder drugs, Conor, no?
No, I haven't, no. I just grass smoker since I'm young. That's all I know. Like,
and sorry, you actually raised an interesting point. Malachy, the way things are at this moment, young fellas like him when he was 16 were smoking it anyway. So the law is doing nothing to prevent young people smoking it.
Because the law isn't applied and isn't effective doesn't mean that we should change the whole way society operates.
And as well, I'm not saying like you started coming across you.
I've had a good run there. Now, you said, you or the previous caller said that there wouldn't effectively be an increase in kids doing it. We know that when the head shops opened up here a number of years ago, there were kids off their head on stuff they were buying there. They didn't even know what
that was because they weren't regulated either.
Hold on. We regulated them by shutting them down.
Yeah, but while they were open, they weren't regulated at all.
No, but what it shows is where there is a premises there, like a coffee shop or like one of these head shops, that people will go in who would not have normally been attracted to that lifestyle.
Okay, that's a reasonable argument, Conor, and that did happen when those head shops were open, that suddenly we had these shops, it appeared that they were legal, and people did flock to them.
No, I understand that as well. That is a good point there, but what I'm saying is each to their own. Like, some people drink, some people go out on the weekend, drink, make an absolute kick out of themselves.
And you don't believe
people don't.
You believe cannabis is a lot less dangerous, a lot less likely to cause problems.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, let me go to Liz. You're on 98FM. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Adrian.
Now, Liz, you're shocked by what Malachy is saying. Why?
Not that I'm shocked by it. I just think that he's distinguishing between Class A drugs and cannabis. I think he's just mixing up the difference. And I agree with one of your other callers. I don't believe it's a gateway drug at all. Just because all junkies might have smoked cannabis doesn't mean all cannabis smokers are going to end up junkies. Because most of us just wouldn't. We just wouldn't touch the harder stuff because we know the damage that does. No, and then, well, I think speaking of them harder drugs, I mean, the government are basically on
Sorry, Liz, I can't hear you there, whatever way you're talking into your phone.
The government are on the brink of opening up clinics where junkies can go and inject themselves in safe environments, and yet you have people up in arms about a coffee shop for cannabis smokers. Okay,
is there not a huge risk that by legalising this drug we're creating a slippery slope into drugs? As Malachy said, this is a gateway drug that's going to cause huge problems.
It's not a gateway drug, though. It's really not. People.
But is he not right? Is he not right in what he says? If you ask the majority of heroin users what drug was the first drug they took, they probably would say cannabis.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you actually went out and asked every cannabis user have they tried harder drugs, an awful lot of them, if not the majority, would probably tell you no.
Because I mean, she's
not
right.
Every cannabis user turns into a junkie.
She is right, Malachy, is she not? That not every cannabis user has gone on to harder drugs.
Of course, just as not every alcoholic or everybody who drinks ends up an alcoholic. But we don't say to kids that it's okay. And just to clear up a point on
we do say to kids that it's okay because there's an awful lot of parents out there who get on if you are talking about drink and tell you that they allow their 15 and 16-year-olds
to drink.
State
so that's a non-argument in itself.
The state and society, whatever parents do, is separate to what the state and the message the state sends. And I agree in relation to injection centres for heroin users. They shouldn't exist. And hopefully they won't by the time this goes through, because they may not have planning permission for the one they're looking for, firstly. But it's total nonsense. And again, the people who are proposing injection centres are the same type of people who are proposing this legislation, and they see a total liberalisation, because the liberalisation of and decriminalisation of cannabis is not done in isolation. It's done in conjunction with opening injection centres by the very same people who are promoting this argument.
Okay, all right, stay there. Let me just bring in one last call. Graham, you think Malachy doesn't understand the benefits here?
No.
Which are?
No, there's so many different benefits from the cannabis, the cannabinoids that come off the cannabis plant. They can be used for MS.
No, we've already discussed the medical benefits, and there is a high likelihood that it will be decriminalised for medicinal use.
Yeah, but at the same time, like any time, like I was on heroin myself, unfortunately.
And did you?
But
well, actually,
it
sorry.
was nothing to. It was nothing to do with weed why I went near heroin.
Okay.
It was actually alcohol. It was alcohol that made me touch heroin and coke and ecstasy.
Right. So the first drug you took wasn't cannabis?
No, it would have been alcohol.
Would have been alcohol. So did we ban alcohol as well, Malachy?
Well, I think if we were to come back to restarting society, there probably would be an argument for that. I'm not saying we should ban it now, but I mean, that's because it'd be totally impractical.
No, of course, yeah. All right, well, look, Malachy, I'm way out of time. You put up a reasoned argument, but I mentioned earlier on our poll, 87% said yes to decriminalising it. A poll on another radio station earlier that would be a much more conservative radio station showed 72% are in favour of it being decriminalised.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Weekdays from 10 a.m. on 98FM.